Eagle! This is the Tigers and Tide Auburn Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com. Available on War Eagle Sports Radio, the Sporto channel, bringing you all Auburn Tigers all the time. Remember to download the War Eagle Sports Radio free iOS app and follow their channel on Twitter at War Eagle Radio. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
Broadcasting from my respective Alabama and Auburn bunkers in Southeast Alabama, Brett Mason here along with my co-host Jamie Thomas. War Eagle, man.
Roll Tide, roll.
Hello to everybody listening on our free iOS and Android apps. You can snag those on your app stores by searching for Tigers and Tide. And also hello to everybody subscribed on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and more. I was checking the stats last night, Jamie. iHeartRadio is our number 2 source of listeners, man. People love the iHeartRadio.
All right. That's one of my favorite apps, too, man.
We are on there. Just search for Tigers and Tide. Got a pretty good show lined up for you today. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking about the big 5 things that you want to look at in the Auburn game this weekend, and maybe some things that everybody wants to look out for, maybe some things maybe you haven't thought about. Plus, we'll be announcing the winner of our weekly Pick'em contest, who will win fantastic prizes courtesy of my partner, Jamie Thomas. And we will welcome in our guest expert, Elizabeth Sturdivant. She will be talking about games coming up this weekend, some picks and plays for you. I guess one of the interesting things for it, just, it didn't even occur to me earlier to see what happened in the rankings this weekend, and I don't know if you paid any attention to that. But in both polls, AP and coaches poll, Alabama moved up to number 2 with Ohio State.
Yep, that's all that mattered to me.
I don't think that's really surprising for anybody. I was surprised a little bit to see Auburn still ranked 6th on the AP poll. Thought the way they looked might have hurt them a little bit, and 7th in the coaches poll. So I think as Auburn fans, I don't think you can be all that upset about that.
No, I think benefit of the doubt, first game of the season. Everybody struggled. TCU struggled. Really, out of the top 10, maybe Ohio State was the only real contender that didn't struggle. I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot of domination this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like a week 1. And then I think you add into the fact that you had several teams like Auburn, like Alabama, who actually played a reasonably quality opponent week 1, and you're just going to see some struggles. And, that goes back to what you and I have said many times. I wish we didn't see anything till week, 6? Week 8, I think, is when the committee starts officially releasing things. But, you just don't know. It's just so hard to know where the teams are going to wind up. So the thing is, though, if you don't start out high on the list, it's nearly impossible to make the playoffs. So given that is the system that we run, you just got to be happy that you're ranked anywhere in the top 25 if you want a shot at a deep run. Coming up, we'll talk about the 5 things to look at when Auburn takes on its second opponent of the year coming up in just a couple of minutes. First, I got to tell you that our podcast is brought to you in part by Blueberry Podcast Hosting and Services. If you want to try your shot at doing your own podcast, maybe you think you can talk about Auburn football better than old Brett and Jamie, you can do it for free, 1 month for free. And after that, if you keep doing it, just $12 a month. Boy, that's less than we pay. I need to talk to Blueberry about what's going on here. So what? SoutheasternFootball.com/free month. SoutheasternFootball.com/free month. You need to use Tigers and Tide as the code at checkout. Tigers and Tide. That's all one word.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time for the Big 5.
Here we go with the big 5 things that I'll personally be looking out for this weekend, the Auburn game, and I think most of these there's probably a consensus on. I'm just going to be, in the interest, Jamie, of being upfront and honest right from the beginning, I really could only come up with 4. So the 5th one is just really silly. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I don't think there's any doubt among anybody that Jeremy Johnson is what we'll be watching this weekend. What are they going to do with him in the passing game? Are they going to try to increase that to give him more reps and maybe improve his ability to look up defenses, try to understand coverages, because that's what he had the problem with in week 1? Or are they going to, concentrate on not having him pass quite so much? Are they going to implement more of the zone read? Are they going to try to tweak the offense in any kind of a way based around what we saw from week 1? If you look at the press conferences with Rhett Lashley and Gus Malzahn, man, they are not wavering at all in their confidence in Jeremy Johnson. If they're worried, you can't tell it from looking at them and talking to them.
What happens, Brett, if Johnson comes in, he plays a decent first half, Auburn gets up, 28, 35 points. He plays a decent first half, but he does struggle a little bit, maybe throws a couple of picks. What happens, say, maybe Sean White comes in the second half and just absolutely shows out. I'm talking, 16 for 20 with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. All of a sudden, is there a quarterback controversy?
Well, I can tell you among the fans there were, because on social media this weekend, the second half of that game, well, it started in the first half. Boy, people were calling for Jeremy Johnson's head and calling for Sean White, which is just, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't jumping to that level of panic. I think that says something about the expectation of Auburn fans, and that's a good thing. But that'd be interesting if that happened. I don't think it will. Does Sean White have that in him? Maybe. I just think it's highly unlikely. I think they've invested too much time in Jeremy Johnson, man. They could be fooling us in these talks that they do with the media, but it looks like they're ready to sink with the Jeremy Johnson ship. Obviously, if this continued into the third game or the fourth game or something like that, maybe they would reconsider. I think he's going to be fine. He read situations like that. Granted, they keep talking about he hadn't started a lot, but in 14, he started a game of 14. He had considerable snaps, and he showed a pretty good ability to be able to read defenses and not pass into triple coverage and things like that. So I don't think, surely he didn't just lose that over the summer, Right. So we'll just wait and see. It's one of those things you can't know, but we'll all definitely be looking out for it. Number 2 on the list, which I think is every Auburn fan should be very concerned about, is the many injuries with key players, especially on defense. Trey Matthews, who was big in the game till he went out with an injury. Carl Lawson, who the entire defense is pretty much centered around. Yeah. They're both talking like it isn't that big a deal. Those guys will be back playing and healthy. My concern, more specifically, is for Carl Lawson. Man, I hope he's just not a guy that's going to be injury prone. It's a big step down from him to number 2. It's, there's some good guys in there, but, man, it's just the defense changes. It's not the same defense. And then we got some issues on the offense to look at, too. Rock Thomas, very minor. Jovan Robinson, very minor. I think they'll be back, but it'd be interesting to see how much they play. Are they going to continue to rest them another week just to make sure? Or are they going to keep them in there just to make sure they're loosened up and game ready? I'm not sure how they'll handle that. I expect, especially at the running back position, I can't speak to Carl Lawson, but I think running back position, I think we're going to continue to see a bunch of running backs run. I think we'll see Carry On in there, Rock Thomas, Jovan Robinson, Peyton Barber. They'll all be in there firing because they want to give those guys reps and they want to be ready. And it's good to be that deep at that position.
Yeah.
Number 3, can Auburn establish a solid, consistent run-first play-action game, which they did not manage to do very well at all in the first game. That's what Gus Malzahn swears his team is. If you look at the past couple seasons, that is what his team is. And it was I don't know what it was Saturday. I really don't know. It wasn't a pass-first offense, but they certainly never established the run, not until the second half when Peyton Barber got in there, and then they could actually start running. But by that point in the game, they didn't want to pass, so there wasn't a whole lot of play action because they were just trying to run the clock down.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the biggest differences I saw also was the Nick Marshall factor. And I know this is kind of off subject a little bit, but Johnson made those throws because I guess in his mind he had no other choice. Nick Marshall, had he been in that situation, he'd have tucked the ball and turned it into something positive. So I think you have to look at that. Maybe that offense is a little bit more tuned for a quarterback like Nick Marshall than it is Jeremy Johnson.
Well, and I'm going to post an article about this tomorrow on our website, so you can go check it out. But the Rhett Lashley press conference yesterday is the first time I've ever heard any of them at any point in time during fall camp say they specifically changed the offense for Jeremy Johnson. Yeah. So that's how I can say with some confidence that this offense is not going to be the zone read Nick Marshall offense. It's just not going to be. They changed it to fit him specifically. The kid can run, though. Did they change it too much? Did they tell him to not worry about running, or maybe they need to implement some of those options back in there? I mean, time will tell. Remain to be seen. The last real big one that I'll be looking for is how many more 2s and 3s on the depth chart we'll get to see in the game. With the huge depth issues, especially that we have on defense, it's going to be important to get those guys some more snaps and repetitions because, as we saw this weekend, your number ones go down easy and you're kind of left hanging. So I think any amount of experience, real live gameplay, bullets flying experience we can get with some of those, especially 2s, but get some 3s in there too. Primarily on defense, but on offense as well, I think is going to be hugely important. And if there's one thing I'm nervous about, or there's a couple things I'm nervous about, but the biggest thing I'm nervous about is injuries, man. And you talked about this all during fall camp when we were doing podcasts, that Auburn fans needed to be worried about depth, and that's what we need to be worried about. And I think Saturday we saw it, man. You got a superstar, but and he goes down, and suddenly you have a completely different defense. And so I think that's something for everybody to be concerned about. Number 5 on the list is meaningless. How many times will Malzahn and Muschamp say boom just because I needed a number 5?
I'm going to go with the over is going to be 17.
Nevertheless, it should be fun to watch. Hopefully it'll be a little bit fun to watch. In games like this, you kind of have to get into the play calling and individual positions usually to stay interested in the game for very long, because once we get up about 3 touchdowns, and then it just becomes real boring. So you start looking at tertiary things and individual players and stuff like that, which still makes it interesting, but that's what you have to do. Jamie has provided fabulous prizes to our Week 1 winner of our Pick'em contest. We're going to announce that winner coming up next, and we'll talk to Elizabeth Sturdivant from 3 Yards in the Cloud and talk about some picks and plays for this weekend. Stick around.
This is Tigers and Tide Picks, a weekly segment where we award free prizes to the winner of our Fantasy Picks League. And we get tips from one of the country's best sports pick analysts. You can follow her at 3YITC or visit her online at 3yardsinthecloud.com. Welcome, our guest expert, Elizabeth Sturdivant.
And here we go. This segment of the show brought to you by Fantasy Sports mega site, DraftKings.com, where fantasy sports fans are winning huge cash prizes every day. America's favorite place to play daily fantasy sports is at DraftKings.com. Play whenever you want. Just pick your sport, draft your team. It's like a new season every time you play, so you're never stuck with the same players. Over $1 billion will be won at DraftKings.com this year, and you could be next to win big. Go to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code Tigers and Tide. That's all one word, Tigers and Tide, and you can play for free. You can't get much better of a deal than that. Your free entry now at DraftKings.com. Tigers and Tide. We welcome into the show Elizabeth Sturdivant from 3yardsinthecloud.com. You can follow her at 3YITC. Hello, lady. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing great, guys.
Roll Tide.
I knew you were going to do it.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
So Elizabeth's going to be breaking down some games this weekend. We'll talk about Alabama and Auburn with her as well. First, we have to announce our first weekly winner of our Pick'em contest. A reminder, that is absolutely free to enter. You just go to southeasternfootball.com/picks, and you can sign up. Just remember, you'll need a password podcast to sign up for our free league. If you miss week 1, don't worry. We'd have a new winner every single week, so you don't have to worry about getting behind. You can still catch up. That's at southeasternfootball.com/picks. It's interesting. We have our first winner as an international winner, Jamie. Bama Down Under is his nickname on the Fantasy Sports League. He's from Australia, and he is
Wasn't
the big
that Mike Price's Twitter handle? Only the true Bama fans get that one.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Wow.
Come on, Brett.
Wow.
No, I'm with you now. And unfortunately, we can't talk in great detail about that on the show. I would also like to point out that I still did beat Jamie Thomas.
I don't know what you want me to say. I'm a little embarrassed.
I want you to admit that I am superior to you in every possible way.
We are 1 week into this season. 1 week, Brett.
So you're going to be shipping out Bama Down Under a fabulous Alabama T-shirt since he's a
He is
Bama
going
fan.
to get a nice prize courtesy of the United States Postal Service.
If you'd like to win a free prize, just make sure you enter southeasternfootball.com/picks. It's free to sign up. And Bama Down Under, I will be contacting you about how to get your prize. It's as easy as that. All right, Elizabeth, you did pretty good. What were you, 2 for 3 on your on the first week. Is that what it was?
No, first, actually, in my money in your pocket picks that I do on my site, I went 3-2.
3-2.
3-2. I was completely wrong about the Arizona State game. I don't know if Arizona State possibly just wasn't as good as advertised. Clearly there were some, warning signs coming out of the Pac-12, as we all saw last weekend, or if Texas A&M's defense really is that good. Only time will tell. But other than that, we had a winning week.
The Pac-12 is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in all my years of watching college sports. I just like to tell you, they have some good teams, though. Jamie and I talked about this on the Monday show. They have some good teams, but boy, they have a lot of bad teams.
For the record, I called the Texas A&M upset.
I think there was way more hype going into Arizona State as advertised. And clearly, we all saw what happened to Stanford, who, some people had as a top team as well. So you're right. I was just wrong. I was wrong there. I admit it. I know when to say I'm wrong.
Jamie lost money on the Stanford game. Jamie lost money on the Stanford game.
And how about Penn State, guys? I was afraid that their quarterback, Hackenberg, was just going to break in half. I felt so bad for that guy.
Couldn't happen to a better program.
As you can tell, we're not as much about the X's and O's as we are about the cerebral making fun of people part of the game. Yeah. We love football for all the wrong reasons, don't we?
We do.
So let's look ahead to this weekend and put you on the line again. And what I know we're going to be challenging in these, asking you to pick the winner of the Alabama and the Auburn games. I'm sure you spent a lot of overtime on these games, but nevertheless, do the best you can.
If you had to put a gun to my head, I would take Middle Tennessee State plus the 34.5 points against Bama. Bama wins, hands down. I'm just not sure they cover that many points. And also in this game, the quarterback for MTSU is the coach's son. And coaches' sons just a lot of times have a way to manage the games and sort of carry out the game plan with a lot of confidence. So Bama wins, but they don't cover the 34.5 points if I had to pick.
Well, and obviously when you're doing the Money in Your Pocket show, you're trying to help people be profitable. We just force you to pick these because this is what our show's about.
Yes.
You don't have any other choice.
Hey, Middle Tennessee State put up 70 points this past weekend. When you factor that into the fact that the last time Bama covered a spread against a team like this, it kind of scares me a little bit.
Let me tell you something, Jamie Thomas. When I was 16 years old, I put up 87 points on my 6-year-old nephew.
Brett, that was 46 years ago.
And that's the exact same analogy as this game. That doesn't mean anything.
What I was trying to agree with Elizabeth, Bama's not going to cover the spread, okay?
I'm a little disappointed because I heard in a previous show that you guys have autographed pictures. Where are
yes, there's one of Brett wearing his Auburn pajamas.
Yeah, I need a life-size poster of that, please.
Look, they don't make posters that big. I'm just going to tell you that right now. They don't have the technology to make a poster of me
That is
life-size.
an awesome crime deterrent. I knew that.
I'm waiting, guys. I'm waiting. So any day now.
Well, I would just like to point out that Jamie had committed you to providing autograph photos, so that's something you guys might want to talk about after the show.
That I can do.
So we're all in agreement. Look, I would be the same too. I wouldn't bet Alabama on the spread in that game either, even though Alabama will obviously win that game. Auburn Jacksonville State is going to be pretty much the same, although I don't see a spread on this game. Are they taking bets on this game?
Yeah. You know they've hit the bottom of the barrel when Vegas doesn't have a spread. I'm sort of like, I hate to say it, but were the Tri-Delts just too busy for a scrimmage this Saturday, so they had to get Jacksonville State? I mean, what's going on here?
The school for the blind and deaf was busy.
What do we even say? I guess thank God they're playing Jacksonville State. I think they have a lot of questions, clearly with Jeremy Johnson. So I think he's good. He's not quite the rushing threat that Marshall was last year. And so I just think it's going to be hard to run the zone read if Johnson can't take off and run at will. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they've got a lot of work to do.
Tell you what, I would at this point I'd trust Jeremy to run much more than I would trust him to pass.
Yeah, he looked a little Jameis Winston-like. There were several times last year where Winston, got pressured and he just sort of threw the ball up in the air for grabs. And there were a few times I felt like Johnson was doing that. So it was, I think it's good this week. They're going to play, sort of a no-name team to maybe get some more experience there.
So now let's get you to help us make some money. I'm sure you got one or two games you can give us that you like, just based on the merits that we could potentially play this week.
Well, of course I do. Of course I do, because I love you guys and I want you to make some money. This week I have Michigan State pick versus Oregon. And last year I picked Sparty to beat Oregon last year and they didn't. But this year, the game is in East Lansing. There's no Marcus Mariota back, and I don't have to give any points. And last week, Oregon gave up 42 points to Eastern Washington. So I'm taking the Big Ten here, and I think Michigan State beats Oregon 35-24.
I like that. I think I'd pick that too. I don't know about the spread because I'm not that good. I like the pick to win, though.
Yeah, well, right now it's just a pick. Now, that could change by the end of the week. But right now it's just a pick to win. So I'm definitely taking Sparty to beat Oregon.
I like it.
Yeah, another pick I have, my underdog pick of the week, is Idaho plus 42.5 points against USC. And I know I talked about USC last week, and USC covered. I picked them to cover the 28 points against Arkansas State. Well, this week, I don't think that USC will cover the 42.5 points. And I think a lot of people will think I'm crazy for saying that. But here's a really, really interesting stat that I couldn't overlook, and I want to share it with you guys. It's teams that cover a spread of more than 21 points in a previous week. They failed to cover the spread 90% of the time when they're favored by more than 21 points in the following week. So I don't know if you took all that in, but basically it's been proven it's very difficult to cover such a big line 2 weeks in a row. And I think USC wins, of course, but they don't cover the 42.5 points. I think it's USC 49, Idaho 10.
Some Bob Euchre type stats right there.
Well, I mean, it's money in your pocket. It's money in your pocket, guys. I have one more pick for you.
Okay.
I have Georgia Tech minus 26 against Tulane. And I think Georgia Tech easily covers the 26 points. Last week, I really thought Tulane would give Duke a better game. I thought they could potentially even upset Duke, but they're clearly outclassed. They're not, it's sort of like varsity playing the JV. And Georgia Tech has one of the best, they're one of the best rushing teams in the country. I think they handily beat Tulane, cover the 26 points. They win 49-17. But my last pick is, I'm not going to give you the pick. It's on my Money in Your Pocket picks on 3yardsinthecloud.com. But I picked the LSU Mississippi State game this week. And I'll just say this. Last year, I picked Mississippi State to beat LSU and cover. And they did. And so I'll just say this. I got it right last year. I think I got it right this year. And you'll have to tune into my show to check that out.
You're a brave, brave woman picking a game where one of the teams we haven't even seen them play yet.
You're right. But I have a lot of confidence in my pick.
That's why Elizabeth gets paid the big bucks to do those picks on this show. Jamie, pay the woman.
I'll pay that to you.
All I've asked for is autographed pictures, boys.
I'm going to make that happen for you.
Keep dreaming.
If you send me one, I will tweet out a picture of me holding that picture.
If you want to have a shot with your bookies, you should definitely check out her Money in Your Pocket show. You can find it at 3yardsinthecloud.com. And remember to follow her at 3YITC. And you're still doing the fantasy football show, too, they can find on your site, right?
I am. And I'm also a DraftKings player. And every week I give you a lineup to help you with your DraftKings daily fantasy contest.
Very, very nice. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. That's Elizabeth right there from 3yardsinthecloud.com. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Elizabeth.
Don't forget to follow us at Tigers and Tide 1 on Twitter and Facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Also, be sure to follow War Eagle Sports Radio at War Eagle Radio for the latest on Auburn Tigers sports. Thanks for listening to the Auburn Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com on War Eagle Sports Radio of the Sporto channel. Download our free iOS app. Just search for Tigers and Tide in the App Store. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And for the latest SEC news, log on to SoutheasternFootball.com.